The Comedy Store tonight, starring Argus Hamilton. With tonight's guest, the legendary Yakov Smirnoff. The very funny Mike Black. And now, give it up for the star of the show, ladies and gentlemen, here's Argus Hamilton.
Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you with us. Welcome to the Comedy Store tonight. I'm Argus Hamilton, your host. We've got a sensational show for you tonight. So let's laugh it up about the news before we get started. We've got a great crowd here with us tonight. This news just in from Washington, D.C., very conservative group called the Family Research Council warned that all these sex scandals in Hollywood and D.C. are going to ruin America's morals. Won't affect me. 42 years in Los Angeles have taught me the difference between right and wrong. Wrong is the fun one. I believe that if I don't sin, Jesus died for nothing. Meanwhile, have you been watching TV this past week? I've been so confused. I was watching a beer commercial, and Dianne Feinstein kept interrupting the guy. Well, there's controversies going on in D.C. I swear that interest groups are at their battle stations this week. I mean it. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford has gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations. But on the downside, her invitation to keggers have completely dried up. Now, I don't know if you've been watching the Kavanaugh hearings, but the third Kavanaugh accuser this week, Julie Swetnick, said that back in college, Kavanaugh and his pals used to use drugs and alcohol to try to take advantage of college girls. The legal term for this is spring break. Meanwhile, a school in Oceanside, California, this is true, has introduced a deportation-themed board game. It's called Tunnels and Ladders. Did you hear the story? Now, this is a story that was going around the last couple of days. I'm not making it up. A hiker said he was held as a sex slave by a bear for 2 weeks in the woods. Turned out to be bogus. You know, people here in West Hollywood knew that it was a fake story. We know that after a week, if a bear hasn't moved in, he's moved on. Meanwhile, after mountain goats invaded the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State last week, authorities are airlifting the animals out, get this, due to their insatiable appetite for human urine. But don't worry, they're taking them directly to R. Kelly's house. Meanwhile, get this. This actually happened in Arizona. A gender reveal party sparked a 47,000-acre wildfire. And I've never heard of someone so upset about having a girl. A Florida man down in Florida, he was accused, now get this, this is true. A Florida man was accused by police of trying to buy an 8-year-old girl from her mother at a local Walmart for $200,000. Walmart is furious, saying this is inconsistent with Walmart's everyday low prices. Meanwhile, now get this, it's all true. Tomorrow, Wednesday, President Trump is going to text every phone in America, whether you want him to text you or not. So now we know how Melania feels every day. You know? Just think, Melania Trump could win the Nobel Peace Prize next week just by changing the password on her husband's phone. This just in, Alex Trebek last night was booed at a Pennsylvania governor's debate in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I mean, geez, you'd think game show hosts have no place in politics at all. Also, get this, a state superior court in Connecticut ruled that employers cannot discriminate against medical marijuana users. Women and minorities are still okay. And finally, the last item, this is true. The New York City Transit Authority says that New York subways are filthy, crowded, and way too slow. And they blame the passengers for it. That was the official report. You know, conditions on the subways are so awful that New Yorkers have started urinating at home. Maybe if they brought in some of those mountain goats, it might clean things up. We've got a fantastic show tonight with Yakov Smirnoff, my old buddy, and funny young man, Mike Black. Stay with us. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you. I'm Marcus Hamilton. Thank you all. Tonight, I'm Marcus Hamilton, your host, and it's really fun to bring out our first guest. He's originally from Colorado. He headlines nightclubs all over the country. Major favorite here at the Comedy Store. Let him hear it, folks. Mike Black.
Yeah.
How long have you been a regular at the Comedy Store?
God, I was an unpaid regular the first time in '99. My first year in LA. I showcased Ari Shaffir and Bobby Lee kind of worked together to run interference for Mitzi.
They worked with you on the road.
Yeah, and one of them would kind of like distract people so that they wouldn't talk to Mitzi during my set. And the other one, like you recommended me and everything. My car broke down the day that I was coming to showcase, and I had to take the bus. The bus literally dropped me in front of the Comedy Store. It was the saddest. And Paulie was there that night. Yeah. And he knew me, and we'd become friendly. And I'm about to go up. I'm sweating bullets. Yeah. I've got like my 5 minutes prepared. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say this thing. And it's all very tight and very. And then one of my friends comes up and he goes, "We're running a little behind, Mike. Your 5 minute set is now 2.5 minutes." Oh, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking in my head, cut all this stuff. Yeah. Paulie sees me, sees that I'm up next, and he goes, "I'm out of here." And he starts to leave. Then he realizes, oh, that looks bad. Yeah. So he stops himself, turns around, gives me a great big hug. He goes, "You're going to do great," right in front of his mom. And that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so I went from like sweating bullets to very calm, and I went up and did my set. And I got back then, at that time, I was passed as a non-paid regular.
Exactly.
It's like
That's the next step up.
Yeah, you'll get to go on, but we're not giving you any money. And then, like 6 months later, I passed for a paid regular.
And so,
So, yeah.
so when did you start hitting the road?
Started hitting the road with Dice about a year after that.
Now, would you work Las Vegas with him?
Yeah, we did the Luxor. Was the very first thing.
Because early in that decade, he was doing the huge rooms there.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was people like there was literally a guy trying to impress his girlfriend by throwing money at the stage. He threw like hundreds of dollars at the stage, and I just kept it. And I was like, I was like, thank you. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but cool. Yeah,
I'll make a note of that joke.
yeah. I hadn't even done a joke yet. And he was just like, I'll show her, and threw hundreds of dollars.
He wouldn't have been asking for a lap dance, right?
No, God, yeah, that would not have worked for any. He would have needed that $100 for the jaws of life later to get. You do not want a lap dance from me. A lap dance from me is a threat. It's not a sex thing. It's a bad news. I can barely withstand my own weight. I don't want anyone else. It's bad news. Yeah, before I came here, I was like, they told me I was doing this show, and I was like, does it pay anything? And they were like, no. And I was like, but there's going to be like pizza rolls or something. Yeah. I negotiate in food mostly, like for gigs.
Lauren Tane's one of our producers from Barney's Beanery. She brings pizza to the.
Oh, she does.
Yeah,
that's news to me. I did not miss it. I'll make this work. Rest assured, if anyone in this studio is getting free pizza tonight, it's me.
You're doing so good, I'll buy it myself. Well, I want the folks to know what you talk about on stage.
Yeah, mostly I talk a little bit about my family because they're just very cool people, and I just love them. My dad gives me advice, but it's always from like things that have never happened to anyone else, so it's not really going to help me in any way. He's like, son, if you're ever locked in a room with a red dog and a black dog, stand absolutely still, and chances are those two dogs will attack each other first, and you'll have time to leave. Where did you grow up? What are you talking about? It doesn't even make any sense. He's like, he'd tell me stories from the Navy. Like one time in a Tibetan whorehouse, I saw a panther fight a wolverine in a steel cage. I bet on the panther. My buddy Lingua bet on the wolverine. What does that mean? It means one day you'll find the right woman. So I'm still trying to figure it out. He'd come into my room at 2 a.m. to tell me new things he'd figured out about life. Son, wake up. Wake up. I figured it out. What, Dad? If I ever want them to get my order right at Burger King, I have to bring a gun. I'm going to have it my way. Sleep tight. My mom was one of those overly supportive moms.
Yeah.
She was the kind of mom, though, that she was very crafty, very, like, reading all the sewing books and stuff like that. So I was the only kid in, like, homemade clothes going to school. Very popular. Oh, there's nothing quite like a young boy in leftover fabric from his mom's clothes. I had my own, like, pantsuit. And an ascot to go with it.
Ascot?
Yeah, I was dressed better than Mary Tyler Moore. It was not good. The crossing guard wanted to kick my ass. It was bad. It was great on Halloween, though. Halloween, having a mom that could do costumes and stuff on Halloween was great. Because I was a little fat kid, too, and I loved Star Wars. Yeah. And, you go to the costume shop, and they're like, kid, it's Jabba the Hutt or nothing. We're out of ideas. We're sorry.
We're out of ideas.
So my mom was, screw that. She just wrapped me in tinfoil, put a black belt on me, and was like, you're the Death Star. Other kids dressed up like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and their parents are like, oh, that kid's dressed as the moon. He's like, that's no moon. It's a space station. But Halloween was my favorite because it's free candy at every house. It was like for a fat kid, that's like working for the census. It's like a dream job. You go to every house and demand candy, and they have to give it to you. My parents lost track of me. They got a call at 2 a.m. Mike, where the hell are you? I'm at the border. How do I say trick or treat in Spanish? Came home with a garbage bag full of chiclets, some wrestling masks, some pharmaceuticals for my grandparents. Everybody won. It's a good time.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you talk about the pop culture as well.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Well, I mentioned I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love all the Star Wars. Did you guys see the last one, Solo? Yeah. 4 of you? That's kind of what happened. I knew that wasn't going to work because you're not going to get cooler than Harrison Ford.
Right.
He can be 1,000 years old, and he's going to crush
still
more
Harrison
ass
Ford.
than I ever will for the rest of his life.
You don't want to fly in a small aircraft with him, but other than
No.
that, he's cool.
Yeah, it's like, and you know that the people that did were thinking like, he flew the Millennium Falcon, it'll be fine. No.
What's even crazier is he landed on the golf course on a Wednesday. That's when the doctors play.
That's good luck.
It really is.
That's good strategy,
Some guys are just
too.
born with it, man.
Yeah, the last good Star Wars, though, was Rogue One. Did you guys see that one? That last sweet 5 minutes of Darth Vader just kicking everyone's ass for the first time in 30 years. We're like, finally, Darth Vader's back. Remember, like, for about 10 years, he looked like Justin Timberlake, and it was horrible. And it's like, why? Why would you do this? And now he's cool again. But what I remember about that movie is they showed something I never thought I would see. They showed Darth Vader's house.
Yeah.
You know, it's this big black Lego castle of death. And so it looks kind of like you'd want it to look. But you know what I noticed about it? There's not a photo in that whole place.
No.
Now, you've lived an exciting life.
Yes.
You know, I've lived a pretty interesting life. I have photos all over the place.
Right.
I never won a pod race. I never watched the Death Star blow up right in front of me. I never chopped my kid's hand off. I would have some photos if I were Darth Vader. I'd have a few that when people come over, who's this? That's my son, Luke. Oh, are you guys close? No, not as much as I'd like. Why not? Well, last summer I chopped his hand off after telling him I was his biological father, and I threw him down a chute. So we don't talk as much as I would like. Oh, and is this his sister? Yes, it's my daughter. We don't talk either. Why not? I blew up her adoptive parents' home planet, and I froze her boyfriend. So I'm not. Have I shown you the breakfast nook? It's a lovely nook. And you know what else I loved about it? His house was built over the volcano where his best friend chopped his arms and legs off.
That is a sociopath.
That is a sociopath, and it's gangster as hell.
Yeah.
That like every morning while he's eating Cheerios, he's like, "I'm gonna get him one of these days." That dude, I have to deal with his robot hand feeding me cereal, and it's his fault, and I'm gonna get him back. You know.
Wow. Well, you know what? What I want to do is I want to get you back here as soon as we can, because you're
Yeah,
a delight to have on the
absolutely.
show, and we're going to get to know more about you and what you like to share with audiences.
Okay, great.
But I want everyone to let Mike Black know what a great job he did.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're fantastic, man.
Thank you, Arthur.
We'll be right back after this with the great Yakov Smirnoff, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Black, let him hear it. We've got a fantastic crowd with us here tonight, and I'm so glad our best crowd in our 2 months of our shooting is here tonight, and I'm so glad they get to meet in person. A dear friend of mine. We almost started out exactly the same time. I just escaped from the great state of Oklahoma This guy got out of the Soviet Union, and I want to hear his story. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Yakov Smirnoff. Welcome here. What do you think of our little place down here?
This is fantastic. I love the monologue. I love your guest. It's really wonderful.
It's a cozy little place.
Yeah.
It's shot in the basement, just like the Romanovs. And you know I've been waiting 2 days to lay that on you. 2 days I've been waiting.
You got it. That's bullseye.
But Mike Black had a great idea for me to ask you about. This is a great premise for you, okay?
Yes.
Mike Black gave this to me out in the parking lot, who was just on. These are very delicate times in the United States. You have to really watch what you say. Everything has to be just so politically correct. Do you ever think of going back to Russia so you can enjoy some free speech again?
I grew up in a very controlled environment.
To say the least.
Yeah. So this is not bad for me. I still feel like I can say, in Russia they would say you have freedom of speech, but in America you have freedom after you speak, which is a nice little feature, right? So, yeah.
Well, I would like our millennials to know real quickly, who are watching tonight, that Yakov Smirnoff escaped the Soviet Union back when they had walls to keep people inside. And he worked cruise ships on the Black Sea, made it out somehow, and got to the Comedy Store in 77, 78.
Yep. No, 78.
And Mitzi Shore saw him perform, just fell in love. It called her back to her own European roots.
Yes.
And she just adopted you virtually, and you started working here very quickly.
And I barely spoke English at that point, and moved into the house above the Comedy Store where you were living. And Mitzi said, if you need a place to stay, there's a comedian's house and you can rent a room. So here I am. It's you, me, Andrew Dice Clay, and Tom Wilson. So Andrew was teaching me English.
Yeah. His first word in English was yo.
I knew all the nursery rhymes. Sort of.
And what our viewers, all you have to do is Google Daily Beast Crest Hill. The name of this house was on Crest Hill. It's a little cul-de-sac right above the Comedy Store. And I turned it into kind of a legendary party house.
Yes, you
and
did.
Where
Yes.
you would stay in your room and watch TV while.
Well, I was working during the daytime at the Comedy Store as a carpenter.
As a carpenter.
Yeah, because I didn't speak English, and Mitzi gave me non-paid regular spot, but I performed very little. And so I would go, I had to get up early in the morning to go to work, and you guys would just show up like at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was asleep.
And we would party till 7 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
And talk about cleaning up.
Well, I would get up and go downstairs to a nice big house.
Yeah.
And every time there was a mirror lying on the on the table.
This is true.
And there was some white powder on it, so I thought you guys were eating donuts from the mirror. And I would say to you, like, why don't you guys use plates? Because you have dishwasher in America. You can just,
The only time we ever wanted to kill Yakov was the time he put a wet sponge to clean up the powdered donuts off. But we love the guy. So we talked the dealer into fronting us another 8-ball.
Yeah, I was.
But he was the cleanest, purest guy, just as he is today. And I had the privilege of opening for you at your PBS special in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
It was the PBS special of the year.
Called Happily Ever After.
Happily Ever After.
Yeah.
At the brand new auditorium in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm. It was great. It was great to film this. It became #1 special on PBS for that year, and I'm really passionate about this new topic because I was helping to end the Cold War between countries. Now I'm trying to end the Cold War between couples. Yeah, there's
It gets harder and harder. doesn't
harder
it?
and harder. But there's job security in this one. Yeah. Because what happened with the Cold War, when it ended in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and David Letterman had a top 10 list of things that will now happen that the Soviet Union no longer there. I made number 1 on the list.
Really?
Yeah, Yakov Smirnoff will be out of work. Yeah, I thought it was funny too, yeah. But 6 months later, it wasn't. Because all of a sudden, all my contracts in Vegas, Atlantic City, Reno, Tahoe were not renewed.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew
It was
that.
all happened very quickly. And I had 2 little kids at that point, and I was trying to find a place where they did not know that the Soviet Union collapsed. So I ended up in Branson, Missouri.
And that's why you built that. You have
Yes, I have a
you have
theater
he has a
there.
theater in Branson, Missouri.
2,000-seat theater.
2,000-seat
yeah,
theater.
Where I'm going there next Monday, starting next Monday through October, November. I'm doing 38 shows.
I've seen you on TV performing there. It's a tremendous room.
It's a beautiful theater.
And he owns it, and you kept it stocked with Chinese acrobats. And
When I'm not there, yes. And so everything, it worked out for me. I mean, I had to learn how to adjust to Middle America. And I was learning English for 20 years. Then I moved to the Ozarks. I had to start all over again. But it turned out to be great. My values, my humor resonated with them. It's clean, it's family-oriented, it's patriotic, and they liked me there.
I've seen you absolutely murdered there. What people don't know is that for coming out of the Soviet Union, Yakov is the most natural capitalist I ever met in my life. I mean this. This is serious. When he got here, within like a year and a half, doing carpentry work for the Comedy Store and starting to work his way up the ladder, this guy went to Europe, bought 2 Rolls Royces, okay, came back to Los Angeles, had them shipped here, and then he sold one of the Rolls Royces that paid for both of them.
Yeah, I did. While you guys were sleeping in after a
We were on donut patrol. Someone had to guard our country's powder. We were keeping South America on our side while you all were collapsing.
in Europe, yeah.
So, right after, I want people to know, I want our viewers to know, the remarkable run Yakov had in the 1980s when he took off as a performer, and I mean was just killing them everywhere. And President Reagan noticed you.
He did, yeah, and it actually was. I was on the Tonight Show, and then I get a phone call from the White House, and they said, "We'd like you to come here to perform in front of the Bushes." Now remember, I was learning English from Andrew Dice Clay. I'm thinking this.
If you can't join them, lick them. I know.
So I said this would get me arrested, and they said, no, we need to come here to perform in front of President Reagan's cabinet.
Uh-oh.
Which I said, well, at least it's better than the Bushes. I made it inside, So I went there, and they introduced me to the president. It was like a state dinner. It was like
This is 1984? Okay.
Yeah, and they introduced me to the president, and they said, this Yakov Smirnoff, Russian comedian, and he looked at me and he smiled and he said, well, have you heard this joke? And he proceeds to tell me a joke about the Russian guy who wants to buy a car, and it took forever in those days to buy a car in the Soviet Union. So he goes to the factory, and the manager said, put your name on the list, come back in 20 years, pick up the car. The guy said, do I come back in the morning or in the afternoon? And the manager times. I said, what's the difference? 20 years from now, he said, the plumber is scheduled to come that morning. I cracked up. I didn't
Yeah,
expect to
he could
be-
tell a great joke.
Oh, he was great. He was terrific. So, and now it was a small dinner, so it was like 18 people there, and they all look at me now. It's my turn
Yeah.
to entertain the president. And I said, Mr. President, you know, when Americans landed on the moon, that was a pretty big slap in the face to the Soviet government. So Brezhnev called all the cosmonauts into his office and said, Americans landed on the moon, we have to land on the sun. And they said, we can't do it, we will burn up. He said, do you think I'm stupid? You land at night. Boy, was I happy when they left, I'll tell you that. And then the whole evening, him and I were telling jokes to one another, and everybody else was listening, saying, Mr. President, tell him that one, tell him that one. And so it was really great. And since then, you know, I was invited to perform at the White House a couple of more times, and then
Did you ever forgive Reagan for ending the Cold War and throwing you out of work?
at this point, yes, because it actually was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
I mean, how many comedians owned their own 2,000-seat theater and were able to?
One.
Yeah. I entertained over 4.5 million people in that theater. So over 20
You see how
years.
it all
Yeah,
comes out.
yeah. So it was a blessing.
And you get audiences that are right in tune with you.
Exactly, and I'm very blessed. So things are, knock on wood, very good.
Well, what was it when you were raised as a child in the Cold War,
Yeah.
in the Soviet Union? We're the same age.
Mm-hmm.
And American kids, baby boomers, you know, we had exercises where you had to jump underneath the desk,
Yeah.
you know, in case, you know, the Russians attacked. What were you warned about Americans? Did you have civil defense?
Yeah, oh, very much so. They built metro stations in like big cities, Leningrad at that
Subway.
time, and subway, and in Moscow. They built them very, very deep,
Yeah.
and it was intentional because it was like a bomb shelter, and
Yeah.
they will always go to that station. And so all the food shortages were really because they would save the food for about a year in storages in case of the war.
Right.
And then they would sell this to the public. And the food was not very attractive after a year of that. Yeah, so we would have, you know, all-you-can-eat buffet, and they give you a piece of bread and say, that's all you can eat. Yeah.
Well, did the Soviet press, as you were growing up in that time, were they favorable toward any particular president, or did they?
No, we did not know anything about America, really, on television. They ignored it and only showed us the homeless and all the bad things, the
Yeah.
crime, all of the
demonstrations.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was, they would sometimes show us like Three Stooges.
Yeah.
And they would say, that's how Americans look.
So if that were going on today, like they'd show C-SPAN, right?
Probably, yeah. And so when you see Three Stooges and you're going, this is American people, you have a totally different idea of what America is.
But you found out exactly what Congress is.
The Three Stooges?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I started working on the cruise ships, I
Yeah.
call it the love barge. I start working on the cruise ships. I met Americans, and I was like going, that's not like what they were describing to us.
Yeah.
And these people are happy because they had food. And I wanted that. I did. And that was when I came to my parents and I said we should go to America. And my mom didn't want to do it because she was nervous that
Right.
I won't learn the language and all of that. But my dad was really excited about going.
Yeah.
So I was a tiebreaker and we came.
Well, so finally, you've been back to Russia.
Yes.
How's it changed?
Oh, no more food lines. They have plenty of food. They have McDonald's. They have Wendy's. They tried to bring Taco Bell, but Putin didn't like the slogan "Run for the borders." But
He didn't like the competition in the poison department either.
yeah, right. And
That's
I
his
got
monopoly.
that. Yes,
yeah.
yes. I got it. And so, so it was different. It was interesting to see that religion, like when I was growing up, no religion was allowed whatsoever. You would get in trouble you're just saying the word God in school. And now they open churches, they restore them. They're beautiful.
Beautiful. Orthodox church.
Yeah. And I walked into one church, and there was a plaque by the door. It says, "Wearing a hat in church is like committing adultery." And someone wrote underneath, "I tried both of those things, and there is a difference." And it was signed Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yakov Smirnoff, ladies and gentlemen. Let him hear it. We'll be right back with a very special guest from the Comedians Fund. Alicia Patel is going to be with us, and she's going to talk about a special deal for comics in need right now. And, so stick around for one more segment. We'll be right back. Thank you very much. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Comedy Store tonight, starring Argus Hamilton, yours truly. And it's a pleasure to bring to you right now a representative from the Motion Picture Television Fund who has started a fund along with Peter Shore, who runs the Comedy Store, a fund for comics. She'll tell you about it. Alicia?
Yeah.
Give it up for Alicia, ladies and gentlemen. She's terrific. Yep. Beautiful young social worker. So glad to have you here.
So about 6-7 months ago, the Comedy Store partnered with Motion Picture Television Fund to establish a fund for comedians, past and present. And we assist with all sorts of things: financial assistance, emotional support, long-term case management, benefits linkage. So we try to do as much as we can.
And this started how long ago?
It's about 6 months ago. Yeah, it's less than a year old, so it's very new.
Okay. And so what have you all been doing so far to help comedians?
So far we've provided a lot of financial assistance, things such as rent that's overdue. Maybe someone's having a rough month, they need a rent to make it through the month. We've provided funds to pay for a caregiver. Someone has an aging parent at home and they need assistance, fulfilling those medical needs at home. They're on the road quite often. We've paid for vehicle issues, payments towards buying a vehicle, and also fixing a transmission. We're also in the process of helping someone out of state. So that's something else that makes this fund really accessible. You don't have to be in California.
You just have to have been a regular at the Comedy Store for 2 years.
Yeah, paid regular at the Comedy Store for at least 2 years at any point in time.
So all our comics out there watching this is the real deal.
Yeah, this is for you.
Yeah.
And we don't make that decision, though. We reach out to our liaison at the Comedy Store, and they give us a yes or no because they know all about,
the liaison.
Steve Simone.
Yeah, Steve
He's our
Simone.
liaison.
Very funny
Great
comic.
guy, yeah. Great guy. And, yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
I'm really enjoying it, yeah.
Are the comics
Good.
you're talking to on the phone funny?
They are funny. Even when we have to be serious, they make me smile.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, you're helping a lot of comics who need help, and that's why you're always going to have a place on this show. Because we're all about making people laugh.
Thank
and
you.
a comic who's got a roof over his head and a car to get to the next gig in is a funnier comic when he gets to that club.
Yeah, got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people.
Well, thank you for helping them take care of themselves. Give it up for Alicia, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Alicia is going to give the phone number for comics out there who might need help.
818-861-3939.
Repeat that.
818-861-3939. That's
And
the hotline.
Their offices are across from the Warner Brothers building in the Valley.
Yeah, right in Burbank.
In Burbank. So it's easily accessible for LA comics or for Vegas comics who
Yeah.
happen to be.
Yeah, anyone.
Okay. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the best show we've done in 10 weeks. Thank you all for being a great crowd. I'm so happy you were here. Thank you, Lauren Payne, for your help getting everyone here. I'm Argus Hamilton. This is the Comedy Store tonight. Good night. We'll see you next Tuesday. Alicia Michaels will be guest hosting for us.